You wake up to the crackle of a dying fire, its faint glow barely pushing back the shadows of the longhouse. The air is thick with smoke, heavy enough to sting your eyes and scratch your throat. There is no chimney here, only a hole in the roof to let the smoke drift out when the wind is kind. Most mornings, though, the wind is not kind at all. You inhale the smell of charred wood, old sweat, damp wool, and livestock waste. Because yes, animals share this home with you. At the far end of the room, just past the line of straw and wooden posts, sheep shuffle in their pens, and a pair of cows snort as they stir from their own restless slumber. The longhouse is not the cozy timbered lodge you might imagine from modern Viking shows. It is long, narrow, and dark, more a shelter than a home, built for survival rather than comfort. The roof, thick with turf, droops slightly from the weight of earth and sod, but it is what keeps the howling wind and snow from pouring in during the endless winters. The walls are hewn logs sealed with mud, a crude barrier against the elements. Cold still slips through the cracks, even under your fur blanket. You feel it nibbling at your skin, reminding you that warmth is fleeting here. You are not alone in your corner. Bodies are pressed close, family members, perhaps a few thralls or enslaved workers. Privacy does not exist here. Neither does silence. Someone snores loudly, their breath fogging in the cold air. Another coughs in their sleep, a wet, rasping sound that hints at sickness lurking within the house. A child stirs restlessly, whining in their dreams. Sleep in the Viking world is not peaceful. It is shared, cramped, and constantly interrupted by the realities of two. Many people and animals jammed into one space. When you finally sit up, the blanket slides from your shoulders, and you shiver violently. The fire has burned low during the night. If you want warmth, someone must crawl from their bedding and feed it, with the meager store of firewood stacked in the corner. Gathering firewood is a daily battle in itself, for in many parts of the Viking homelands, trees are scarce. Driftwood, peat, and animal dung often become fuel, filling the house with even harsher smoke. For now, you rub your arms briskly and try to will the numbness from your hands. Above you, the faint beams of dawn filter through gaps in the turf roof. Daylight is weak here, particularly in the long winters when the sun barely climbs above the horizon. It brings no cheer, only a reminder that work begins again. There is no question of sleeping in. The longhouse stirs to life as people rise almost in unison, accustomed to rising with the dim light or the crow of a rooster. You can't complain of tiredness or try to hide under your blanket. Survival demands early waking. The moment you move, you feel straw clinging to your skin, prickling under your tunic. The bedding here is simple, piles of straw or dried grass, covered with whatever furs or woven blankets are available. Comfort is not part of the equation. Insulation is the only goal. Still, the straw grows damp from breath and sweat. It smells musty, and when you shift, a faint itch spreads along your leg. Lice, fleas, and other vermin thrive in this bedding. Scratching is as common as yawning. You cannot escape it. The sounds of the longhouse grow louder as more people stir. Someone stumbles toward the fire, muttering, and throws on a log. Sparks flare, briefly illuminating faces lined with exhaustion. The firelight glints off iron tools hanging from the beams, an axe, a cooking pot, a spear perhaps, each one essential for the day's tasks. A woman ties her hair back roughly, preparing to fetch water or begin the morning meal. A man coughs again and spits into the ashes. Children rub their eyes, clutching small wooden toys or scraps of wool, not yet ready for the work that will soon be demanded of them. The animals shift restlessly as if to remind everyone that they must be tended before people can think of themselves. The cows need milking, the goats feeding, the chickens checked. Their noises are part of your alarm clock, mingling with human yawns and grumbles. The smell of manure wafts up as one of the cows relieves itself, and the stench fills the longhouse, mixing with the lingering smoke. This is normal. You live in your own filth, because the alternative is letting the animals die outside in the cold. Their survival means your survival. As you rise fully, you feel the weight of your wool tunic pulling on your shoulders. It is coarse, itchy, and patched in more places than you can count. Viking clothes are practical but rough. Warmth matters more than elegance. You pull your cloak tighter, made of heavy wool that still smells faintly of the sheep it came from. The floor beneath you is packed earth, uneven and cold to the touch. There are no rugs here, no wooden planks to keep your feet dry. When it rains, mud seeps in. When it snows, drifts push against the walls. You are always fighting nature, and nature always wins in small, wearying ways. Before anything else, you must step outside. The door of the longhouse creaks as someone pushes it open, letting in a blast of icy air that makes everyone flinch. You step out into a landscape both starkly beautiful and utterly merciless. The horizon stretches in shades of grey and white. The land frozen hard, the sea rough and restless. The wind bites at your face instantly, carrying with it the scent of salt and pine. There is no softness here, only raw exposure to the elements. You squint as the gusts sting your eyes, and for a moment, you wonder how anyone could endure this for more than a day. But endure it they do, every day of their lives. And now you must, too. The chores await. The animals must be fed, the firewood gathered, and the endless cycle of survival begins anew. And all of this starts the very moment you awaken in the Viking longhouse. Sleep offers no escape. Awakening simply returns you to the constant struggle of existence. The day does not begin with leisure or a slow stretch. It begins with demand. The moment you step outside the longhouse, the air slams into your chest like a wall of knives. The Viking homelands are not gentle. If it is winter, and it often feels like winter, lasts forever, then the cold is merciless, burning your nose with every breath and turning. Your hands stiff before you can even flex them. If it is summer, the air may be kinder, but even then it is heavy with dampness, mist rising from the fjords, or sudden rain sweeping in without warning. There is never an easy season. Nature does not forgive, and you feel it instantly in your bones. Your first chore is water. There is no well inside the house, no tap, no easy bucket of fresh water at hand. If your settlement has a stream nearby, you must trudge to it, carrying heavy wooden pails, your boots sinking into mud or crunching over frost. If the stream is frozen, you have to hack through the ice with an axe just to get at the water beneath. Imagine your fingers clumsy and numb as you hold the handle, your breath puffing white into the early morning air. By the time you return to the longhouse, shoulders aching from the weight of the sloshing buckets, the cold water has already soaked through your gloves and sleeves. As you pass other longhouses, you see your neighbors performing the same ritual. Everyone must fetch water. Everyone must greet the morning with the same burden. There is no shortcut. A spilled bucket means a wasted trip, and a wasted trip could mean less water for cooking or for the animals. And without water, nothing else in the day can happen. Once the buckets are full, the animals demand attention. You must milk the cows and goats quickly, before frostbite nips at your fingers. The animals' breath steams in the frigid air. Their bodies warm, but their temperaments impatient. They shift, low, or kick as you crouch beside them, struggling to keep your balance on the frozen ground. If your hands are clumsy from the cold, the milk comes in pitiful spurts. If you drop the bucket, you might as well have dropped your breakfast on the ground. And this is not a chore you can skip. Milk is too precious a resource. Next comes feeding them. Hay, if you have it. Whatever scraps were saved from the last harvest. You pitch forkfuls of straw into troughs, sneezing from the dust, or you scatter grain, knowing that every handful spent on animals is one less handful for your family. You shovel muck from the pens, though clean is a relative word. No matter how much you scrape, the smell clings, and your boots are caked with filth. Then comes the task of wood. Without fuel, the longhouse will freeze by nightfall. Children may join in, fetching sticks and driftwood, but the rail work falls on you. In some places, trees are scarce, so you comb the shorelines for driftwood, hauling long, sodden logs back on your shoulders. In other places, you chop down smaller trees, your axe biting into frozen wood with dull thuds. Each swing drains your energy, each strike a reminder that warmth never comes free. Your arms ache, your back stiffens, and the pile of logs you've gathered never looks as large as the pile you know you'll need. By now the morning has only just begun, but already you feel worn thin. Your breath comes fast, your muscles ache, and your stomach growls with hunger. Yet there is no pause. The fields wait for you, even if they are not ready for planting or harvest. They demand constant attention. Stones must be cleared. Soil must be turned. Weeds must be pulled. The tools are crude. Wooden plows tipped with iron, heavy hoes, and rough spades. There are no machines to ease the burden. No animals other than oxen or horses to share the load. If you stumble, you fall into mud. If you hesitate, someone else takes up your slack, muttering under their breath about your weakness. And then there is the weather. If it rains, you cannot simply retreat indoors and call it a lost day. You must continue, water soaking through your cloak, plastering your hair to your forehead. If it snows, you shovel paths just to move between buildings, your boots slipping and your hands raw from icy handles. The cold never leaves. It lives in your joints. It seeps through your clothes. It gnaws at you until even simple chores feel like endless punishment. There are smaller tasks, too, woven into the rhythm of the morning. Repairs to fences, mending of roofs, checking traps for fish or small game. Each one may seem minor, but together they consume hours. And if you fail at any of them, the cost can be steep. A broken fence means escaped animals. A neglected roof means rain pouring into the house. An empty trap means less food. You do not complain, because complaint achieves nothing. Viking life is built on endurance. Complaining only brands you as weak. And weakness is not tolerated in a world where every hand must work for survival. Children are expected to help as soon as they can walk. Elders contribute until they collapse. Idleness is dangerous, and laziness is unforgivable. As the morning stretches on, the weather shifts again. The sky grows darker, a gust of wind slaps you across the face, and fat raindrops begin to fall. You hunch your shoulders, pulling your cloak tighter, but it does little to protect you. Wool is warm, but once it is soaked, it grows heavy and clammy. You think of the longhouse, of its smoky fire and dim shelter, but you cannot return yet. Not until the animals are fed. The water is fetched, the wood is stacked, and the fields tended. Only then, perhaps, will you be allowed to step inside and warm your hands briefly at the hearth. And even then, the work will not be done. The morning chores are only the beginning. By midday, you will be called again, to labor, to endure, to fight back against a land that seems determined to crush you. Every hour of the day is a test. Already you feel how impossible this life is. Already you sense why surviving even a single day in Viking times might break you. By the time you return from the morning's endless chores, hauling water, feeding animals, hacking wood, shivering in the cold, the hunger in your stomach has become a gnawing ache. You might imagine that after so much effort, you would be rewarded with a hearty breakfast, something rich, warm, and filling. But in the Viking world, food is rarely about pleasure. It is about survival. And survival meals are plain, repetitive, and sometimes disappointingly small. The longhouse smells faintly of smoke and sour grain as you step back inside. A woman, perhaps the mistress of the household, tends to a large iron pot suspended over the rekindled fire. She stirs slowly, the thick mixture bubbling lazily. This is no feast. It is porridge, barley or oats, boiled in water or thin milk, with maybe a pinch of salt if such luxury is available. The consistency is uneven, clumps sticking to the spoon, and it carries the sharp tang of smoke from the fire. This is the Viking breakfast, the fuel for another grueling day. You sit cross-legged on the packed earth floor, waiting your turn. There are no plates in the way you know them. Instead, people eat from wooden bowls, sometimes sharing, sometimes dipping into the same pot with spoons carved from bone or horn. If there are too many mouths and not enough spoons, you eat with your hands, burning your fingers on the hot gruel. Children gather close, whining with hunger, while elders wait in silence, their faces worn from years of this same daily ritual. When at last you taste it, the porridge is bland and heavy. It fills your stomach but brings no joy. Sometimes, on fortunate mornings, it might be flavored with dried berries picked during the brief summer, or perhaps a drizzle of honey, though honey is rare and precious, saved for mead or medicine. More often, though, the porridge is just grain and water, thickened to stretch as far as possible. If you are unlucky, it has gone slightly sour, the result of being left too long in the pot overnight. You eat it anyway, because there is no alternative. Alongside the porridge, there may be coarse bread, dense and dark, baked from barley or rye flour mixed with whatever filler can be found ground beans, even crushed tree bark in times of famine. The bread is hard, heavy enough to double as a weapon, and must be torn with your teeth rather than sliced with ease. Sometimes, people use these chunks of bread as makeshift plates, setting their porridge or bits of meat on top and eating both together. Drink, too, is part of the morning meal. But here there is no steaming cup of coffee or tea to wake you. Instead, you are handed a wooden mug filled with ale, weak, cloudy, and sour. Water is not always safe to drink, especially after being stored. So ale becomes the staple beverage, even for children. It contains little alcohol compared to modern beer, but enough to make the head swim if consumed in large amounts. It is not refreshing, but it is safer than the water. And yet tomorrow, you will wake in the smoky longhouse, drag yourself into the cold, and begin again. Farming in the Viking Age is not about progress or improvement. It is about survival one day at a time. And in this endless cycle of toil, you realize why you would never last. You might imagine the Vikings dressed like the warriors you see in films, shiny helmets, fur capes, dramatic armor. But the truth is far more practical and far less glamorous. When you rise in the morning and prepare to clothe yourself, fashion is the last thing on your mind. Clothes are not about style in Viking times. They are about survival. They protect you from bitter cold, shield you from wind and rain, and allow you to work from dawn to dusk. Every stitch, every layer, is chosen with purpose. Your clothing begins with the simplest of garments, the undertunic. It is made of linen if you are lucky, wool if not, and it rests scratchy against your skin. It is plain, undecorated, and often patched many times over. There are no bright white shirts, no crisp folds. The fabric is rough spun, uneven, and dyed only in muted shades: brown, grey, pale yellow, depending on what plants were available for colouring. You pull it over your head and immediately feel the weight of centuries of repetition. Every Viking before you dressed the same way, and every Viking after will too. Over this, you wear your tunic, the main layer of clothing. It is made of wool, thick and warm, woven by the women of the household. The wool is coarse, not soft, and the garment itself is heavy, often hanging down to your knees. Its sleeves are long, because exposed arms mean frostbite in winter. The neckline may be slightly decorated with embroidery, a faint pattern stitched in coloured thread, but only if your household had the time and skill. For most, there is no decoration, just utility. Your legs are wrapped in trousers, also made of wool. They are not tailored with precision. Instead, they are baggy, tied at the waist with a simple cord. Beneath them, in colder seasons, you might wrap strips of cloth around your calves, binding them tightly to keep the chill away. These leg wraps itch constantly, and they loosen as you move, forcing you to retie them throughout the day. But without them, your legs would freeze. There are no socks in neat pairs, only woolen wraps, hastily made. Footwear is another struggle. Viking shoes are crafted from leather, cut from a single piece and stitched crudely together. They are soft, thin, and wear out quickly on the rocky ground. After weeks of trudging through mud, snow, and forest paths, the sole split, and your feet ache with every step. You stuff grass inside them for insulation, knowing the damp will soon turn it to mush. There is no such thing as waterproof boots. Your feet are almost always cold, always sore. For warmth, especially in winter, you throw on a cloak. It is a simple rectangle of wool, fastened at one shoulder with a bronze pin if you can afford one. The cloak is heavy, itchy, and often smells faintly of smoke from the fire where it hung overnight to dry. But it is your shield. Against the wind, and without it you would not last an hour in the Nordic frost. Richer Vikings might line their cloaks with fur, fox, rabbit, or even bear, but for most, fur is rare. You wrap the cloak tightly, pulling it close to your chin, and still the wind slips through. Head coverings are essential, too. A woolen cap, knitted crudely, or a hood attached to your cloak protects your ears and scalp. Without it, you would lose heat quickly. And in a world without central heating, every bit of warmth matters. In the deepest winter, when snow piles against the longhouse walls and icy winds howl, you might even wrap rags around your face, leaving only your eyes uncovered. Clothes are not disposable. Every garment is precious, every scrap of fabric salvaged. When a tunic tears, it is mended with clumsy stitches. When trousers wear thin, patches are added until the original cloth is hidden beneath a mosaic of repairs. Nothing is thrown away. Old clothes are unraveled for thread, cut into strips for ties, or reused as bedding. Each garment may serve for years, passed down from one family member to another until it is nothing more than rags. Dyes, when available, add the rare splash of colour. Reds from madder roots, blues from woad, yellows from birch leaves. But dyeing is time-consuming and costly, so most peasants wear dull shades. Bright colours are a sign of wealth, of trade connections, of higher standing. If you saw a Viking in deep blue or vibrant red, you would know they were someone important. For you, it is brown, grey, and more brown. The land itself seems to seep into your clothes. Jewelry and decoration exist, but only in small amounts. A simple bronze brooch to fasten your cloak, a bead strung on a cord. Perhaps a plain iron arm ring if your family could spare the metal. These items are not for show. They are functional, symbolic, or tied to oaths. You wear them not to look beautiful, but to signal loyalty, kinship, or a promise made. The feel of Viking clothing is constant discomfort. Wool itches against your skin. Leather stiffens when wet. Cloaks grow heavy with rain. Shoes let in snow. Nothing fits neatly. Nothing cushions you from the roughness of the world. Every movement reminds you of the weight, the scratch, the damp. Modern clothes, soft and fitted, would seem like a miracle here. And then there is the endless labor of making these garments. Women spend countless hours spinning wool, weaving cloth on heavy looms, cutting, sewing, and repairing. The whir of the spindle, the creak of the loom, are as much a part of Viking life as the clash of swords. A single tunic may take weeks to complete, from shearing the sheep to spinning thread, weaving fabric, and sewing the garment together. Every piece of clothing represents hours upon hours of invisible work. You might imagine slipping into bed and changing into something comfortable. But in Viking times there are no pajamas. You sleep in the same tunic you worked in, perhaps loosening your belt, perhaps pulling a cloak tighter around your shoulders. Clothes are not changed daily. They are worn for days, sometimes weeks, until the grime and sweat force a wash. And even washing is rare, done in icy streams or wooden tubs, with lye soap that stings your skin. To live a day in Viking clothing is to feel heavy, restricted, always aware of the elements pressing against you. You itch, you sweat, you freeze, and you endure. These are not costumes of warriors. They are armor against nature itself. And as you walk out into the wind, cloak flapping, shoes squelching in mud, you begin to understand you would not last long wrapped in such rough, relentless fabric.